Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Learn It's offsite event. Today is Leadership Setting the Foundation with the one and only James Jeffley right above me here. He's going to be going over a whole bunch of things on leadership and setting the foundation. Again, this event is brought to you by Offsite, the Learn It's online community where we have instructors and other professionals, office professionals, managers, and everything like that all in one place, all networking and talking. And, it's a great place to come get help and also meet new people that might be in the same profession as you. And, just talk out, your issues and everything like that you're having at work. You might surprise yourself on what type of answers you get there and everything like that. And of course, as always, our instructors are always in there helping, answering questions, and partaking in the conversations as well. So if you want to get along with a bunch of like-minded professionals, check out Offsite. It's there for you. We're always here to help out. I do want to say hello to everybody. I know we have a global audience, so let us know where you guys are watching from today. I know we have a lot of people all over the world. It's always interesting to see those responses come through. And then without further ado, let me get moving on this a little bit here. Of course, I have an issue with my thing. So how it works, this is hosted every other Friday. These events are brought to you by Offsite, Learn Its online community. I know I said that twice already, but it's every other Friday at 8:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We usually try to have a monthly theme. Again, this is every other Friday. It's a live class. It's a chance for you guys to get a taste of the course. This is just it's not the full course. The full course is either about 2 to 3 hours, usually, depending on how much conversation is started. And then also we have like breakout rooms, and obviously in the actual live class, you guys would be on camera and everything like that. So there's a lot more interactivity and stuff like that. But this is kind of like a taste test of what we do normally. With just a few things removed there. It's centered around a monthly theme, often based on our full-length workshops. There will be a few topics that we have that we're bringing in subject matter experts to talk on something that might be wildly popular, or something along the lines like AI or the fourth industrial revolution and stuff like that, or celebrating our heroes and stuff like that, like we had with Brian Lanier in February. So there's various different types of topics that we have and guest speakers that we'll have. And sometimes we'll do some stuff for charity as well. So you guys, we run the gamut of everything like that of what's going on. And again, just a reminder, anyone that just joined us, let us know where you're coming from in the chat. We always like to know. And hello, Ranging Gamer. You were here pretty early, so I hope you're still here. Let's see right there. Yep. All right. So yeah, every other Friday and led by subject matter experts. And today we have James Jeffley. James is actually my favorite instructor to have ever taken a Learn It class from. He's amazing. He's done such great work on professional development, soft skills, and everything like that. He's also a great Excel instructor and PowerPoint and all that as well. He's a man of many talents. I'm very happy to have him here today. Let me go over the copy that we have here. James is a father, an award-winning international speaker and trainer, a professional coach, musician, ordained minister, and published author. For over 25 years, James has helped tens of thousands of adults across the globe improve their skills and elevate their consciousness to achieve better results. Now, if I'm not mistaken, James, you've also won Toastmasters, right?
Yeah, I've done some cool things in Toastmasters and been in the World Championships finals a couple of times. So that's been a blast.
I just want to say my mom is coming for you. She's in the Southern California circuit doing really well. So
way to go. Way to go.
I just want to say hello to Carrie and Sarah. Thank you Carrie from Indianapolis and Sarah from Fortville, Indiana. Thank you for joining us this morning. I know
Indiana's in the house.
Midday. Yep, Indiana's in the house. Well, without further ado, I think, James, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll disappear in the background, and let you take over.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks for hosting this. Thank you for everybody around the globe who's joining us today. Today, we're talking about leadership, setting the foundation. So whether this pertains to you directly, or maybe this is a skill building thing for the future. Maybe you're not a manager or supervisor yet, but one day you will be. Or if you are currently a people leader, a manager, supervisor, whatever, there are some real world proven tools that you can take away from today to help make your transition into management, into leadership a little smoother, or maybe go back and polish up a few things if you've been doing this for a little while. Bangladesh, good to see you, Kamal. Welcome. So what I want you to think about is your first one or a new leader joining your organization, right? It's common for new leaders to want to step in and address their team by talking about the current state of the company and then sharing their plan for the first 100 days. They'll often talk about the changes they want to implement, rally the team to help drive those changes and implement them. And sometimes that's just off-putting. Because if you've been that person, it's like, wait, who is this new person coming in here wanting to change everything up, right? Without taking time to get to know the team or the organization or the culture. And I'm based in the United States, and so my experience is primarily that of Western business environments. However, I have done a lot of training and teaching around the world, so feel free to translate this into whatever works best in your part of the world, organizational, culture-wise. But I think most of this is applicable anywhere on the planet. I want to tell you a brief little story about David Abney. David Abney was at one point the CEO of UPS, United Parcel Service. And he took a very different approach in his first 100 days as the leader of this organization. He did something that no other CEO had done in the history of that company. He listened. He spent the first 100 days of his tenure as new CEO listening. In fact, he went on a worldwide listening tour to hear what employees across the organization, from top to bottom, in as many countries as he could get to, what the company needed to do, what those employees felt the company needed to do. He just listened. Not only did he listen to their ideas, he actually implemented many of them. In other words, he spent his first 100 days on the job as CEO establishing trust with the entire organization, and he continued to reinforce that trust with each and every interaction. So what do you take from that story? How many of you wish new leaders in your organization did something similar, just spent the first 100 days listening, getting to know people, and building trust? Would things be a little different now if they had done that? Have any of you ever had leaders that did that? New to the organization, they came in and they spent the first whatever amount of time, right? Getting to know people, listening, hearing what people like or what people want to change. And so today is about maximizing your first 100 days as a new manager by establishing trust. That's what we're going to talk about in our hour together, a little less than that now. Establishing trust from the very beginning of your time as a new leader is a cornerstone to your success. When your team trusts you, it not only makes for a smoother transition into leadership, it also helps protect and nurture the relationship with your team when inevitable mistakes occur. In the United States, there's a tradition politically where a new president, when they take office, there's a focus on their first 100 days in office, their legislative agenda, their signature legislation, the big initiatives they want to push. So whether we're talking politics or we're talking leadership in an organization, your first few days are absolutely critical for establishing the tone, the direction, and building trust with your team. And I want to share a few tips to help you along with that. So we're going to talk about ways to build trust in the first 100 days. We'll talk about how to ensure your actions are meaningful and how to empower your team. And after this, you go practice this stuff. All right, let me share some insights. According to a book, who was this from? This is from Marcel Schwantes in 2017. New managers lack one critical skill. What do you think it is? Drop it in the chat box. Think about new managers that you've worked with. What do you think the one critical skill is that those managers were lacking? Drop it in the chat box. I'm curious. You had a new manager, a new supervisor, a new leader in your organization. Something was missing from their skill set. What was it? Oh, Sarah says patience. That is a critical skill, right? Anybody else? What was the skill that new manager or leader was missing? Oh, they're really good at this, but they don't have a lot of that. Relationship building, Carrie says, absolutely. That's another critical skill, right? Patience and relationship building. Listening, yes. Kanyaya, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Listening, that's a critical skill. Well, I think all of what you just said, patience, relationship building, listening, are rolled up into this one particular skill. 91% of new managers lack emotional intelligence in their communication. Patience, relationship building, listening are all critical aspects of emotional intelligence. And understand, this is not a technical skill. Oh, someone knows how to use AI or chat GPT or the latest, whatever technology. This is not about technology. This is a human skill, right? And you can learn emotional intelligence. In fact, Learn It offers some classes on emotional intelligence. But 91% of new managers lack emotional intelligence in their communication. And the biggest issues were that managers were not recognizing employee achievements, we're not giving clear direction, and we're not making the time to meet with employees. So if you're looking for what are some things I can do, some specific action steps I can take to improve my transition into leadership, there are three: recognizing people's achievements, giving clear directions, and making the time to meet with employees, as well as patience, relationship building, and listening. Simon Sinek is a popular author, a TEDx speaker, a thought leader, etc. And he says, when we tell people to do their jobs, we get workers. But when we trust people to get the job done, we get leaders. And so you got to think about, what kind of leader do you want to be? The kind of leader who just wants compliance. You tell them to do something and they do it. Or the kind of leader that gives a vision and inspires and empowers people and teaches people and has patience with people, inspires people to go out and have some autonomy and agency. When you're that kind of leader, then you get other leaders. And that makes delegating easier. It makes productivity more effective. It makes achieving your vision more possible. But all of that only happens if you're doing the things that we've talked about: having patience, relationship building, listening, emotional intelligence, recognizing people's achievement, making time to meet with them, etc. One of the most important things you want to do as a new leader is you want to build trust with people. So let me share with you in a couple minutes here a model for building trust with your team. If you want to be an effective leader in any context, in any organization, profit, nonprofit, governmental, non-governmental, etc., any organization that involves other people, you want people to know you, like you, and trust you. Know you, like you, trust you. That's all relationship building. Know, like, and trust. Let's talk about building trust. Here's a model for building trust. If you do this, you have a much greater chance of building trust with people. This particular framework has 3 pillars. Number 1 is empathy. Empathy is that you actually genuinely care about other people. I'm not saying you have to be, oh, I love you and you're my best friend. No. You actually care about your team. You care about your team's success. You care about their well-being as human beings, not just cogs of the corporate machine. You actually care. Now, if you struggle with this, look for where else in your life you actually care about something. Family members, friends, the pets, things you're passionate about, community service, community work, etc. Find something to care about, right? And then translate that into care for your employees, care for your team. You got to have empathy. Somebody once said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So you got to have empathy. Number 2 pillar of building trust with your team is competence. You've got to do a good job. How many of you have ever worked with a manager or leader that was incompetent? Does it ever happen? You can just put yes or no in the chat box. Don't mention any names. Yes, Bob was very incompetent. No, don't mention names. But have any of you ever worked with incompetent leaders? people that lacked technical knowledge, people that lacked financial knowledge or organizational knowledge, and pink waving, right? People that lacked emotional intelligence, people that didn't understand strategy or project management. They just weren't very good. Maybe they were nice people, but they just were not competent. So if you want your team to build trust with you, right? If you want your team to trust you, you got to know what you're doing, and you got to do it well, right? So think about this for a moment. Is there some aspect of your job that you feel a little lacking in? It's like, oh, I need to know that better. I need to be better at that thing. Whatever that is, write it down and then make a plan for yourself in the next 30 days to get better at that thing. Competence breeds trust. Incompetence breeds distrust. Maybe they don't think you're going to throw them under the bus or treat them unfairly. But if they don't trust that you have the ability to get the job done or to lead them well, good luck getting them to trust you. So you got to work on your competence. Here's the third pillar of trust: authenticity. Have any of you ever worked with somebody who came across as inauthentic or fake? Have you ever worked with a fake person? It seemed like they were putting on an act, putting on airs. You didn't really get to know the real them. Any of you had this experience? If you work with someone who's inauthentic, who seems like they're putting on a show for you, you never really know who the real them is. It's like they're wearing a mask. Comedian Chris Rock once had a funny line about this. He says, when you go on a first date with somebody, you're not actually going out with the real person. You're going out with their representative. Right? The person, the image that they want you to see. And then once you get comfortable in the relationship, then the mask comes off and then the real them shows up. I think the same is true with a lot of people in the workplace. We put on a mask. We put on an air of how we want to project leadership and confidence when maybe we're not great leaders and maybe we're not that confident at all. Some people call that imposter syndrome. Imposter syndrome, right? So your team has to, they have to know that they're interacting with the real you. How do I show authenticity with my team? Share things with them. Not everything. You don't have to tell them all your business, but if you have a hobby, something that you're passionate about, I like volunteering, or I like camping, or whatever your thing is that you feel comfortable sharing, share that so that they know you're a real person and not just only the manager or leader, right? There's a lot of fake stuff in the world today. And I think one of the things that many people are craving for is authenticity. Just be authentic, be real with folks. So 3 pillars of trust: empathy, caring about people; competence, doing a good job; and authenticity, being yourself. Which one of those 3 do you think you do well? And which one of those 3 do you think, oh, I need to work on that one? I really need to work on that one. Drop it in the chat box. Which one of those do you think you need to work on? I need to work on my empathy. I need to work on my competence. I need to work on authenticity. Or is it all of the above? I have a lot of work to do. How you folks doing so far? Is this making sense? You getting some good information here? All right, let's talk about building a trusting relationship. Could do better with empathy. Thank you, Carrie. I appreciate that. Thank you. Think about where in your life you are empathetic, right? Thanks, Chris. Appreciate that. Think about where in your life you are empathetic. And if you can be empathetic there with that person, maybe you can let some of that spill over to your team, right? Not that you have to be best friends, but just a little care, right? Here's a quick way, Carrie, to show that you care. Just ask people how they're doing. And not just in a flip, no, how are you? But like genuinely, hey, how are you? How was your weekend? Okay, super. Hey, thanks for showing up. Right? Just a little bit of connection, right? And it starts to build. Most of this stuff it takes place over the long haul. It's not immediate, right? Stephen Covey, author of Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, says trust is the highest form of human motivation. How many of you have somebody in your life that you are motivated to do things for because you trust them? Right? Trust is a key to motivation. I mentioned earlier how David Abney, CEO of UPS, at one point went on a worldwide listening tour. During that tour, he took great care to understand what employees cared about the most, what they wanted the most. And he showed empathy from the very beginning by listening, not by telling, I'm the new CEO and here's what I'm going to do, but listening. Hey, I'm the new CEO. What can we do better? What would you like to see us do? And then he carried that approach with him to every interaction with people. So how can I develop empathy, Carrie? Listen. Just listen. Don't try to fix, don't try to solve, just listen. So let's talk about building a trusting relationship. Here's another tool that you can use, and it's called individualization. This is the ability to recognize and appreciate the uniqueness in everyone. Every one of us has something different about us, something special about us, something unique about us. And being able to see that in each member of your team and call that out and acknowledge them for that is another way of showing empathy and recognizing that you see them, right? It's knowing what motivates them. It's knowing how they think, their preferred communication style, what makes them tick. And when you focus on what is unique about each person on your team, you can tailor your interactions and how you manage them. You can then draw out the best in each person. It also shows sincere empathy. Let me give you a couple of examples. Think about somebody that you work with that is a very direct, bottom line kind of person. They're not interested in a lot of detail. They're not interested in a lot of extraneous information. They just want to focus on getting the job done. If you have somebody like that, if so, when you interact with that person, you can tailor your communication to be more succinct, bottom line focused, rather than provide a lot of additional information or ask a lot of additional questions. Yes, you still get to ask questions, but maybe not as many with this person because their focus is very narrow. How many of you work with somebody who's more analytical? They need more information, more data, more facts. If you work with that individual, well, you need to expect your conversations to be a little longer. They're going to have more questions because that's the way their mind works. And so you need to be prepared for that, to answer their questions, to ask them questions, because they're going to want to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. The details matter to them. Think about somebody that is more visual in nature. They're an idea person, big picture person, right? Maybe they're not big on details, but they talk in the abstract in terms of concepts. When you're having a conversation with that person, you need to keep the conversation up here in the abstract, in the vision arena, not so much the nitty gritty step 1, 2, 3, 4. So tailoring your communication based on each person's individual style, individual social style, individual communication style can help you connect more effectively with each person and build trust. So one way to practice individualization with people is get curious about them. Now, this doesn't mean you come in with a list of questions or answer the following 20 questions. No, 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 no. You get curious about them. What makes them unique? What special talents do they have? If you have one-on-one meetings with your team, and I recommend that you have one-on-one meetings with your team, with each person on your team, then ask them questions like, hey, do you have any special skills or hobbies? Oh yeah, I like you know gardening or whatever it might be. Oh really? Tell me about that. Well, tell me about your garden, right? Now, does that mean you have to garden? No, it just means you're getting curious. You're asking about them, what makes them unique, what are their special talents. One of the big reasons why many people leave organizations is they're bored. It's not salary, It's not compensation. That could be a reason, but one of the top 3 to 5 reasons why many people leave organizations these days, they're bored. Maybe they got hired to do job A, but they have B, C, D, and E other skills, and those other skills are not being utilized. You're only utilizing one of their skills. If you have a one-on-one with one of your team members and you find out, oh, you're good at data analysis, or you're good at project management, or you're good at writing or marketing or sales, but we're only having you do one thing, no wonder this person is bored and disengaged. We're only using a tiny fraction of their skill set. But when you get curious and ask people, hey, what other talents do you have? What? Really? You know how to do that? Well, now you open up this realm of possibility where they could work on other things, become more engaged, increase their productivity, right? And maybe you don't have to hire another person because you already got somebody on your staff that knows how to do those other things. You figure this out when you get curious. Here's a second thing you can do to practice individualization. Pay close attention to what they say and how they behave. Pay close attention to what energizes them. When they're in a meeting, whether in the room together or you're doing this virtually and all the cameras are on, and cameras should be on, right? Notice when people perk up, when they get interested and excited in something, whatever that is, that might be a key thing that motivates them. That might be something that they have a lot of passion or pride in, right? That might be an opportunity to give them praise or recognition, or to invite them to work on a different project. Pay attention to where people engage, but also pay attention to where people disengage, right? Where people are not connected, and find out what's going on for them. Number 3, focus on their experience, not yours. In other words, if you have a difference of opinion, find out why they see things the way they do. Try to see things from their perspective. Hey, how do you look at this? What's your perspective on this? How do you see this situation? Well, how do you think we could improve this, right? Put yourself in their shoes. What is important about this topic to them? And then finally, ask yourself, what can I learn from this person? Just because you're the manager or the leader or the grand whatever doesn't mean you know everything. Let's get that straight. Just because you got promoted doesn't mean all of a sudden you gained 50 IQ points. Hello, Raghav. Welcome. So always, there's this theory of multiple intelligences that basically says we're all intelligent with different things, right? So I may be good at one thing, and Ben's good at something else, and Chris is good at something else, and CJ is good at something else, and Raghav is good at something else. So what is each person uniquely intelligent in, right? Whatever that is, that may not be your strength, but it's theirs. So what can you learn from them? What can they learn from each other? One of the things you want to look at doing in your organization and your team is setting up cross-training with your team. Have each person on your team learn some aspect of the other person's job. Why? It makes for a stronger team. It makes it easier to delegate things. It makes it easier when somebody wants to go on vacation. Carrie wants to go on vacation. It's easier to tell Carrie, hey, go have fun on your vacation, if everybody else on the team knows how to do parts of Carrie's job. But if Carrie's the only person that knows how to do Carrie's job, it makes it hard for you to say yes to Carrie going on vacation. Carrie feels like, I'm stuck here. I can never get away because nobody else can do my job. Let me give you an aside here. If you think that hoarding knowledge makes you indispensable in an organization, you are sadly mistaken. I'm the only person that knows how to do this, therefore I'm indispensable. Nope. No, you're not. An organization can let you go at any time they want, unless you have a contract with them, and then there may still be some out. But you could be let go at any time for pretty much any reason, right? So don't think that if you hoard knowledge, you're the only one who knows how to do a thing. You're not going to share that information with anyone else. You're making yourself more valuable. You're not, right? A great leader is one who shares knowledge and makes the team stronger and builds them up. I have been a people leader before. I've been a people manager before, and I wanted everybody on my team to know how to do as much as possible and to be smarter than me. Makes my job easier. So if you want to build trust with your team, practice individualization, and those are 4 things that you can do. Now, here's another practical tip for your first 100 days as a new manager or leader. Please, please, please have a relationship meeting. And during this meeting, you lay the groundwork for how you're going to work with this person for establishing a trusting relationship. This is not just a, hi, I'm your new manager. Do you have any questions? No, 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 no. This is a meeting where it's one-on-one. I actually recommend 2. 1, you have a relationship meeting with the entire team, with everybody there. And then you have a relationship meeting with each person on your team to forge that one-on-one relationship. This meeting, the purpose of this meeting and what makes it different from your ongoing one-on-ones is that it focuses on building the relationship. This meeting is not about the work and the checklists and the projects and all of that. It's about getting to know each other. It's about setting expectations. It's about starting to build trust. It's about setting the tone from the very beginning. You have to make this a priority, and you have to do this meeting within the first 2 to 4 weeks, depending on the size of your team. If you've only got 1 or 2 or 3 people on your team, you can get this done in the first week, maybe even the first day. If you've got 20, 40, 50, 100 people on your team, it's going to take you a minute. And by a minute, I mean probably weeks. But you got to make sure that you do it. So here's the framework for this relationship meeting. Number 1, you talk about preferences. Have any of you ever been asked by a manager, hey, how would you like to be managed? Anybody? Has any manager ever asked you how you like to be managed? That's an important thing, because here's another fundamental truth about management and leadership and life. Jot this down if you want to. One size does not fit all. Any of you know this to be true? One size does not fit all. You cannot treat everyone exactly the same. Right? Good. Thank you, Chris. That's wonderful if that happens and somebody asks you, hey, how do you want to be managed? Make sure you ask that same question of every new person to your team. Hey, how do you like to be managed? There are some people who say, hey, just tell me what to do, give me clear directions and goals, and then just turn me loose, leave me alone, and I'll go and I'll do it. There are some people who don't need a lot of supervision or hand holding, if you will. Meanwhile, over here, there's another person that's like, hey, tell me what to do, give me clear instructions, but I need more check-ins with you, right? There's a person who needs a little more supervision. You can't manage both of those people the same way, right? There are some people that need recognition. Hey, if I'm doing a good job, I want a parade, right? Tell me, make a big deal in front of everybody that I have done a good job. There are other people that are like, I don't need all of that. I like recognition, but just send me a private chat or something. I don't need to make a big fuss, right? I don't need you to make a big fuss. So these are the kinds of things that you want to find out about people. What are their preferences for how they like to be managed? Some people are like, look, instant message me. That's the best way to reach me. Others are like, email me. Other folks are phone me. Some folks are like, hey, I prefer a video meeting or a face-to-face. So find out what people's management preferences are, how they like to be managed. And you share with them your preferences as a manager, how you like to work with people, your preferred communication styles. Number 2 thing that you talk about in this relationship meeting in the first 2 to 4 weeks of being a new manager is, what are the expectations? What are the behavior expectations? And first, frame this by sharing what you expect of yourself, right? Then extend it to what you expect from them. This may also be a good time to share what upper management expects from you, because that may influence how you'll manage. So you may say things like, here's one of my expectations. If you run into a problem that's going to mean you'll be delayed in getting your work done, you need to let me know as soon as possible, so that I can help you or find additional help for you or reprioritize or figure something out, right? Back 100 years ago, when I used to work for one organization, I was working in the buying staff, and all the buyers had a little paperweight, a desk plaque on their desk that said, "No surprises." That was the motto for that entire buying staff, no surprises, because the nature of our work was we would work with vendors in other countries around the world uh, uh, to buy apparel like shoes and boots and sandals and things like that. Well, we would have marketing, TV ad spots and radio spots and all of that. The shoes, the apparel had to be in the stores when the ads ran. So if a vendor was going to be late, if a shipper was going to be late getting us our product, we had to know that as quickly as possible to adjust our plans. No surprises. That was the theme for the culture of that buying team, right? So that was an expectation, right? That you're proactive in your communication rather than reactive. You might have another agreement with people about the quality of work that's expected, or timeliness or attendance or tardiness, right? So lay out those expectations, ask what they expect of you, and be clear about what you expect of them, so that there are what? No surprises. Third thing you talk about in your relationship meeting are projects. What projects are they currently working on? If you're the new manager, you're coming into this team, you want to find out what people are already doing. You don't want to upset the apple cart necessarily and start changing a bunch of things. So find out what projects people are already working on. Or if you've been given projects from your new manager, then let your team know that, because that might affect the projects that they're working on, right? So talk about what work people are doing. The fourth thing is value and support. You have to show that you value their experience and ask for suggestions. Be authentic with people. Ask them questions like, how can I best support you? What can I do to make your job easier? What do you need? You may not be able to give them everything that they want, but you might. You don't know until you ask. How can I help you be successful? And if you were previously a peer of theirs, you worked with them, and now you're their manager, you have to distinguish between the way that you supported them as their peer from how you will support them as their manager, right? Usually, if that's I've had that situation before where I worked with people and then I became their manager. I added so now I'm your manager piece of the conversation. And how that usually goes is I tell people, look, you and I still have the same job. Our job is to serve our customers. Our job is to serve our clients. Our job is to serve whoever we serve. You still have that role. I have that role, but I've added another capacity where now my job is to not only serve them, it's also to serve you. That's how I frame that conversation if I was their peer and now I'm their manager. We still technically have the same job, serve our customers. I have an additional responsibility, serve our customers and serve you. So how can I best serve you? Does that make sense? So those are some things you can do in that relationship meeting. So we've talked about empathy, building trusting relationships, having individualization, finding out what's unique about each person and honoring that, and the relationship meeting. Let's talk about some things to do to build competence. Remember, you've got to be good at what you do. You don't have to be the best, but you have to be good. You have to be competent, right? How can you demonstrate competence to your team? Here's one way: create early wins. Create early wins. Sometimes brand new managers want to come in and just put their signature on things and just start changing everything. Don't do that, because you don't know how well things are working now. And you may take a high performing team and turn them into a low performing team. Why? Because you messed with things that didn't need to be messed with. Does that make sense? Resist the urge to do that. Come in and do like Dave Abney did and listen first. Observe, see how things are working. Is the team meeting its goals or exceeding its goals? If they are, don't mess with that. Pay attention. Manage by walking around and observing first. If your team is not meeting its goals, okay, Well, what can you do to help them get back on track? Look for creating early wins. What does that mean? Number one, look at what work is in flight. In other words, things that people are currently working on when you join the team. What work has to be completed and where can you pitch in to help make sure that box gets checked? So look at what people are already doing, see who might be struggling and who needs help completing that work. That's an early win. Look at the unfinished work. The previous boss, the person that you're taking over for, what were they working on? Is that work still valid? Does that work still need to be completed? Okay, maybe that's something you take on. And in your first 100 days as a new manager, you finish the thing they started. A third thing to look at are what are the biggest obstacles your team is facing right now? Well, how do I figure that out? Ask your team. This is something to talk about in those one-on-one meetings, those relationship meetings. Hey, what's the biggest obstacle you face right now? It could be a process, it could be a person, it could be somebody on another team, it could be with a customer, it could be something legal. Find out what it is. If you have the power at your level to remove that obstacle, remove it. This might be something that you have to go to your manager for help with. But if you do that and you can remove this obstacle so that your direct report can be more successful, then have that conversation with your manager and get that obstacle out of the way. Or brainstorm with your direct report and your team how you all can work together and maybe create a workaround, right? You may not be able to get rid of the obstacle, but you may be able to work around it. So put your heads together and figure this out. The fourth way to create an early win with your team is change. And this is a great question I ask of the whole team and individually. Hey, if you could change one thing, and I usually add magic wand to it. If you had a magic wand and you could change one thing about how our team works, our department, or the organization, what would you change? And the reason why I use magic wand is magic tends to take away all of the real world obstacles people encounter. Well, I'd like to change this, but we have a process. Forget about that. Forget about the process. Forget about the resources. Forget about the time, money, the whatever. If it was magic, if you could blink your eyes and magically change something, what would you change? In fact, do that right now. If you could magically change one thing about your organization, your team, your department, what would you change? If you want to drop it in the chat box, feel free to do so. I'm curious. If you could magically change one thing about your organization, your team, your department, what would you change? Sarah says communication. And whatever communication looks like, Sarah spent time having a vision of what better communication looks like and what would need to change in order for you and your team to get to better communication. Is that timeliness? Is it accuracy? Is it accurate communication? Is it more complete communication? What specifically about the communication would you like to improve? Because if you can identify the specific thing, now you can start to come up with specific solutions. So ask every person on your team individually and ask the entire team what they'd like to change. All right, let's talk about empowering team members for a minute here. How do I lack of cross-functional capabilities? Chris, I feel you on that one, and that's a huge thing in a lot of organizations that I talk with around the world. And part of the reason for that is so many people are just focused on doing their one thing. And there's not a focus on education or training, right? It's got to be a thing that you commit to. And I say this not just because I'm involved in education and learning. I say this because I've seen organizations struggle because of what people don't know. Think about how many times somebody has gone on vacation in your organization or has gotten sick. They weren't at work for some period of time, and whatever their job was, that function started to suffer, and everybody else who depended on that started to suffer. Why? Because they were the only person that knew how to do that. Well, whose fault is that? Well, yours, the management, right? The organization for not prioritizing cross-functional training and capabilities. Everybody should know how to do their job well, whatever their main job is. But then you look in your team, and you should be teaching. Everybody should have everybody mentor everybody else for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, and teach some aspects of everybody else's job. No, you don't have to be an expert in 5 other jobs, but you should know how to do 1 or 2 things in other jobs. That's got to be a priority. So that way, if somebody is out for whatever period of time, your team doesn't suffer, your organization doesn't suffer, and most of all, your clients don't suffer because that person isn't there. It's about building capacity, and cross-functional training is one of the ways to build capacity with your team. All right, let me share a couple of other things before we get out of here. How do you empower team members to motivate and get stuff done? Well, here are some do's and don'ts. Here's some do's, first of all. Play to their strengths and their goals. If you know somebody's really good at a certain thing, assign them tasks or projects that leverage that strength. Don't assign tasks to people that they don't know how to do. At least get them some training or mentoring first so they can develop some skills to eventually be able to take on that task, right? So play to people's strengths and goals. Number 2, please define the desired outcomes. In fact, here's a question. Write this down and then get good at asking this of your boss and teach it to all the people that report to you, and make sure they ask you this question. Here's the question. What does successful outcome look like to you? I'll repeat it. What does successful outcome look like to you? Here's a scenario. Think about this. You go to a meeting with your manager. Your manager says, hey, Sarah, I'd like you to do XYZ. And they don't give you a lot of information or a lot of details. And then they give you a deadline and they go, okay, you got it? And you go, yeah, I got it. Okay, super. Take care. And then you leave that meeting going, I don't got it. There's some part like it didn't make sense. They didn't give you enough specifics. Am I making sense here, folks? Have you all been in that meeting before where your manager told you to do something, but they didn't give you a lot of specifics and they said, do you understand? And you said, yes. And you left the meeting going, I don't really understand. But then what do? You try to do it anyway. Before you leave that meeting, ask that question. What does successful outcome look like to you? Because chances are your manager knows what successful outcome looks like to them, but they didn't tell you that. They didn't spell it out for you. If I just said, hey, go make me a sandwich, that's all I told you. What kind of sandwich am I getting? Probably not the one I had imagined or hoped for. Never leave a meeting fuzzy, unclear. Right? Never leave a meeting where details about important tasks are ambiguous. Always define the desired outcomes. And when you are giving people directions, tell them exactly, specifically, clearly what you expect. I want you to achieve this goal at this amount by this date and this time using the following tools or resources. You got to spell it out for folks. And for those of you who are thinking, well, I'm working with adults and they're professionals, they should just know that. Yeah, maybe they should, but do they? Don't assume. Never assume with people, right? Ask if they know how to do something. And if they say yes, show me. Show me that you know how to do that. And if they don't, great. Now train. Now mentor. Provide the right training resources and level of authority. If you're going to delegate a task to somebody and say, hey, I want you to do this, achieve this, don't just delegate the responsibility. Also delegate the authority to make decisions about the budget and the timeline and the scope and all of that, right? As long as they stay within certain guidelines, right? Put them completely in charge of the thing. Give them all the tools, including authority, that they need for success. And then finally, give and ask for feedback along the way. I've taught a lot of classes on giving and receiving feedback, and one of the things that most people struggle with is how to deal with the emotional backlash of from someone if you give feedback that they don't like or they don't want to hear. Well, what makes emotional backlash more likely is if you don't give feedback that often. If you only wait once a year to give people formal feedback about their performance, yeah, that's probably not going to go well. So giving feedback needs to happen in your one-on-one weekly meetings. And you need to ask for feedback. Hey, how well do you think I'm doing? What am I doing well as your manager? What got to improve? You got to be willing to accept that feedback. And if people are telling you there's something you need to improve, you know what? Thank them for it and then work on improving that. So those are some do's for empowering team members and getting them motivated. Here are some don'ts. Don't assign busy work. Don't assign work just to keep people busy. Give them something meaningful to do. And if there is sort of a lull, there isn't a big project for them to work on, that's a perfect time for cross training. Have them shadow someone else and learn parts of their job. Do not assume that people know the expected outcomes. Tell them, hey, I need this ASAP, as soon as possible. For whom? If you need it by Friday, 5 o'clock, close of business, then tell them I need this by this Friday, close of business, 5 o'clock. In fact, tell them you need it Thursday because you always want to build in buffer time. Do not automatically assign challenging tasks to the most experienced or the most competent people. Why? Because that's an easy way to burn those folks out. And if you ever experienced that, you got burned out because you were the one that always got assigned the important work, that gets old after a while. It feels good the first few times, but after a while it gets, oh, we got other people working here. Give them some things to do, right? Don't put this all on me. And finally, do not micromanage people. Have any of you experienced a micromanager? And if you don't know what that is, you can look it up online. What is a micromanager? It's basically a person that is watching your every move, that questions everything you do, that's hovering over you, that wants constant updates. Check in with me before you do this. Check in with me before you do that. If your HR department or your hiring managers hired the best and brightest, if they hired good, competent people, treat them like adult professionals and let them do their job. Don't hover over people and have to double or triple check everything they do, right? Maybe sometimes you have to do a little bit of that if somebody's brand new. You have to be more directive in your approach. But after a while, if you're dealing with somebody who's confident and competent, give them clear instructions and then get out of their way. So make sure you have clear objectives and priorities with your team. Make sure people know what the goals are. Make sure you have confirmed understanding with them that they know what the goals are. Step back, get out of the way and give them room, and give and receive feedback throughout the way. All right, we've got just a few minutes left. I want to share one last thing with you, and this is on developing authenticity. We talked about empathy. We talked about competence. Now let's talk about authenticity. How do I build authenticity with my team? Please be honest. Don't lie to people. People can sense that. People have a pretty good lie detector built in. You kind of know when somebody is not being honest with you. Be honest. Be approachable. When your team feels at ease with you, they tend to bring out their best. They need to know that you will always tell them the truth. If things are going on in the organization that affect them, inform them. You also have to be approachable, right? Whether that's set up specific office hours or let people know that, hey, whenever you need to talk to me, text me or IM me or email me or call me. If you are not approachable, if you're standoffish, if people feel like, oh, I can't talk to the manager, I can't talk to the leader, you're going to miss out on important information because they won't share it with you. You may also start to lose credibility and likability. Remember I said no, like, and trust? If you're not approachable, then you're probably not likable. If you're not likable, people may not trust you. Be inviting and be inclusive of everyone on the team, from the newest people to the most senior people, young, old, different generations, different skin colors, different abilities, neurodiversity. Be open and honest and inclusive of everyone on your team. And when people feel at ease around you, they tend to do their best. You'll also start to gain their loyalty. So let me give you a couple of tips for how to show honesty and approachability. Number one, when people are talking to you, lean in. Give them your undivided attention. If any of you had a conversation with somebody, right, and you were talking to them, but while you were talking to them, they were on their phone texting, or they didn't have the camera on, or they were looking at other screens, did you ever get the feeling that people weren't paying attention to you? If your direct report is talking to you, if your manager is talking to you, give them your undivided attention. Be fully present. Here's another way to show honesty and approachability. How many of you have ever messed up? You made a mistake, right? If you're a human being, you should have your hand up, right? I've made my fair share of them, still do. Admit when you do. Be accountable. Hey, that was my fault. I did that. My bad. I own that. And here's what I'm going to do to fix it. Admit your mistakes. Unless your wardrobe includes a super suit, ask for help. Even Superman had the Justice League. Wonder Woman had the Justice League. Iron Man had the Avengers, right? Black Panther had the Dora Milaje, right? No matter how super you think you are, you still need help. There's a common myth out there in business of the self-made person. Success is a team sport. No one succeeds alone. No one. So if you're struggling with something, ask for help. Ask your team for help. Ask your manager for help. Ask colleagues for help. Ask people outside of your organization, friends of yours, for help. Ask for help. Do not struggle or suffer in silence. Ask for feedback. You generally want to know how well you're doing. If there's something you're doing well, you want your team to tell you that so you can keep doing that. That's something they like that works. If there's some area where you're deficient in, because we all have blind spots, ask your team, hey, what am I missing? What could I improve? And you got to make it safe for people to tell you, hey, here's a thing. Oh, okay, give me an example. Oh, I see that. Okay, thank you. And then the best evidence of you receiving feedback is changed behavior. The last thing is consider an open door policy. Hey, I have office hours, where you can call me between this time and this time, so that people aren't calling you all hours of the day. Whatever it takes, right? But be available to people so that they know they can reach out to you. So those are the 3 pillars of trust: empathy, competence, and authenticity. And that's what to do in each of those things. Last thing is make the team your own. You have to establish yourself as a leader, right? Don't walk in ready to shake things up right out of the gate, as I said earlier. At some point, you will want to establish yourself as the leader and make the team your own. You want to establish a culture that reflects a combination of the things that you've learned and of your own personal style. And that's going to be different for every manager, but it should come once you've built trust. So think about what that looks like for you. How will you know when your team trusts you? And when you start seeing signs of this, that's when you've begun to make the team your own. And if you start seeing signs of that before your 100th day in the job, you've done a tremendous job. So what to take away from this? Here's some other steps to take. Each week, commit to learning something new from each team member. 2, schedule a relationship meeting with each team member and then practice what you learn from that. And then finally, find out what matters most to your team and help them move forward. That's all I got for you today. I hope you've gotten a lot out of this. And tell all your friends. If somebody's not a part of Offsite, tell them to go to offsitebylearnit.com. The address is on the slide there, and sign up. It's free. Ben, it's still free, right?
It's still free. It's going to be free forever, I think.
Over 7,000 professionals from all around the world come there, and they attend classes like this, and they share with each other, and they connect, and it's a great thing. So I hope you've taken a lot of good information away from what I've shared with you today. Sign up for a class and go have the full interactive experience where we can do breakouts and you can do live Q&A with me and other professionals, and get your learn on. Whatever you want to have, do, or be in life, you can have, do, or be that. But first, you might have to learn it. I apologize for the pun.
You cheated up greatly for me, James, because I was just going to talk about diving deeper. And yes, the best way is our June schedule is coming soon. I actually got all the topics just this morning. I'm not gonna pull that scramble to pull that email up, but those will be scheduled up soon. So you'll see those events hit our YouTube channel and also on Offsite as well, and you can join there. We have this again. James already said it, but here's Offsite, 7,000 other professionals just like everybody else. We have live instructor help there. We have the exclusive Ask the Expert sessions, and what those are is if you're having any issue, you can bring it in. There will be a live instructor there who'll be able to help you. Our most popular ones, obviously, are the Excel ones. If you're having trouble with the formula or something like that, you can bring your workbook, you can bring whatever, and the instructor will help you live to solve those issues. We also have it for time management and Outlook, PowerPoint, Access, you name the programs. We usually have a block. But even if the topic isn't like what you're looking for, you can still come and ask for help, and our instructors will try to help you there live as much as they possibly can. There is badges of certification you can also earn an Offsite, and also exclusive offers. Those are usually other events, other free live classes that might be a full version, or some other uh, events that we hold. You can scan the QR code here, or you can go to offsitebylernit.com. It's all there. And I think, yeah, that's it. That's it for me. So thank you everybody for joining us. Show some love for James in the chat here. The knowledge he dropped today, guys, is the stuff that we get asked almost. This is our top stuff that we get asked for training people in professional development skills or soft skills, whatever you want to call them. It is always the new manager skills that are in the most demand, and this is what we do the training the most of when it comes to professional development, is this new manager type training. And so James really dropped a lot of great knowledgeable things that, like I said, we get paid thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars per class to do this at other organizations. So, it was a great free knowledge drop from James. So I just give you a little bit of applause there, James. Thank you so much. And yeah, we will be back in, I can't give you the exact date. They're deciding the date as we speak, but we will definitely be back in June with 2 more live classes, and we hope to see you then.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for taking time, and all the best to you. Hope to see you in a class or at Offsite again. Be well.